I accidentally just disconnected everybody by ending the meeting, so I'll give people a few minutes here to get joined in. I'm pasting our day's agenda in the Zoom there also. And if you could note your attendance there, that would be appreciated. All right, I think we actually have sufficient people here to get started. So I am Tim Pepper. This is the 112 release Burndown. We're in the final week. This meeting is being recorded. It will be posted to YouTube shortly after the meeting. The agenda is relatively short today, actually. I think we're kind of down to 2 issues roughly right now.
Tim?
Yes.
Tim? The record is not on from what I, okay, sorry.
It's saying it's recording on my side.
Okay, sorry.
Thanks for checking though. Hopefully it is. Okay, so a quick rundown where we are. Things are definitely continuing to look up. We're down to maybe two issues to talk about in depth. Normally, the flow of things right now would be that we would have reopened master because things were definitely stable and good. As discussed earlier in the week, we're not doing that because we don't have sufficient test infra folks coverage today, tomorrow to make sure everything goes clean. So we're deferring to Monday. The one change that means then is that we don't really have a cherry pick deadline. Normally we'd reopen, but declare that sort of by Friday, any cherry picks in the meantime need to be in so that we still have a couple days to soak those. I'm comfortable in the meantime that the velocity of things coming into master is basically 0 as you would expect for right now. There's just very, very, very targeted things coming in. So that is good. We're going to go ahead and cut a second RC tomorrow and redo RPMs and DEBs because we had some issues earlier this week. Not convinced we're going to have that straightened out for the RCs specifically. This is probably going to be something that has to carry on into the next release to figure out how we manage that better. I've opened a test infra issue to track resolving that correctly. So on Monday, we'll thaw master. We'll double check what's merged in the meantime, make sure something unexpected hasn't merged, do our branch fast forward to release 112, let that get its final soak, and Thursday should be our release. I think we're pretty on track for that, modulo the 2 issues we'll talk about more in detail here. So on the agenda, the test infra stuff there, I think we've talked about, and I'll get into the DEBs and RPMs a little bit later more so. So we've had a whole bunch of GKE issues. Aish has noted this morning that things are triaged and probably addressed. And I agree with you, Aish. If this is the only thing we have going on and we have test coverage that's comparable outside of GKE2, like we don't need to block on this, but it also looks like it's on a trajectory to be in a better shape. So that looks good. Our storage and horizontal pod auto scaling stuff that was in flight all looks good as of today. The two major, or the first major thing then is the state of upgrade. And I see that Tim St. Clair's on, and I know we have this issue around how we get the version strings. Do you have some stuff you would like to say?
Which particular one?
Okay, so PR 68787 around the updating the version string and not having the endpoint there.
Oh, that's basically, at this point, we have to merge it before the release.
Yep.
Like full stop. I need to make a minor update. Lubomir pointed out that they have 2 sections that I need to update, and I only updated 1. But that should be like the final update. Typically, we merge that before a release candidate.
Yeah.
I don't think there might be something weird about this particular release and setting that endpoint. I do know that it will cause tests to fail until that endpoint is available because it's just a bunch of the tests. Right? So
And
I'll
right
get
now, other than that, like that's not going to cloud any KubeADM CI signal, right? Last I'd glanced, I thought everything looked reasonable there for you.
Yeah, everything else is good. So I just need to update that PR. I think it's probably fine to wait on that PR until the very last PR to merge at the end of the cycle before we cut RC, or before we cut the actual release.
And given the glitch on the endpoint, are you thinking we should just go ahead and press the merge button and make it go in?
I would press the merge button at the very end. Very last PR you want to merge before the actual release is cut, because the release cut will make that endpoint, right? So you're going to get tests all go red for a little period of time.
And I'll keep digging to try and understand how we did this in the prior release, because looking at the GitHub record there, we didn't force merge that.
I think we probably added some test automation to it, so
that would make sense.
There's some test automation that's actually causing it to be red, extra inside of kubeadm tests.
Okay.
I'd have to dig through history to get all of the details there.
I can look there, and I'll double check that, because I want to make sure that we're not missing something that we should have done, because this hasn't been sufficiently documented in the past how we managed all of this.
Well, it's documented in the kubeadm repo for us.
Yeah, but not
what we need to do.
Yep. And the SIG release document basically has said, like, hey, the cluster lifecycle people have it together. They'll take care of stuff. But yeah, we should have better visibility into what all you're doing. The certificates issues on certificate renewals and the CLI change related to that, I was treating as a release blocker, but it looks like those have merged, and I haven't seen any sign of anything additional coming there. That had been Liz and Lubomir working on that.
So things are okay there. We don't have to make any additions. I don't see red tests related to that, so I think we are good.
Sounds good. Then the final thing that was on my radar was upgrade downgrade failures, but these are outside of kubeadm. And it looks like this may be, yet again, our old friend, the node taints by condition. Klaus has a PR pending as of early this morning. That's worrying, but we'll see that hopefully that PR gets its final review today and merges today, and we can see the test status there. I've also got SIGApps, who are the test owners, looking at it. And because it's slightly similar to the horizontal pod auto-scaling stuff we've seen, I've asked for their help as well. So those were the things that were on my radar from an upgrade perspective. Tim, did you have additional things?
Nope. Our signal is pretty much green now. There was a different issue, but it appears that DIMS fixed it on the release branch, and I tested it last night, so it was good. So I think once we cut the next RC, we'll go through another batch of testing, manual testing.
Okay. Excellent. So the next thing on the agenda then is the Golang update to 110.4. We're expecting this to go smoothly. It's been merged since last night. Haven't seen any destabilization, but of course that could take a little bit of something weird happen, in particular scalability. We won't know for sure till Monday. So that's basically a watch this space and be hyper paranoid, I guess, just in case anything odd happened. And then that flows in a bit into the final bullet here on image builds. So DIMS, do we have additional things that need checking whether they were built with 1803 versus 1806?
I don't think so. But there is definitely one thing left, which is the HCD one. XD, yesterday we were going back and forth between updating the revision number, so the .0 and .1, because we are updating we are generating the manifest now, but for all practical purposes it's the same HCD version. So XD did update the PR that from the IBM person, Manjunath. So we have to cut the manifest, but we don't have to update any code. So that's the good news. There is no additional PR because the version number remains the same.
Okay.
Maybe there is some test scripts that have a .0 and .1, but we can let that slide up for now.
And the final comment there on the pull request 59664, where Ixie says he'd look at getting that manifest stuff done today. Is that tracked in an issue anywhere, or would just watch the PR here in Slack?
Yeah, just
Okay.
watch that PR there. We
Okay.
don't have an additional issue for tracking that. Yeah, that's all I had.
Okay, I just want to jot that down real quick.
Dims, I wanted to ask, do we have to update kubeadm because right now it's hard-coded to etcd patch release and we don't have the revision in there?
Yeah, it's fine not to have the revision for now, because we do have the etcd image with and without the revision. Both point to the same SHA. So what we have right now will work. But then going forward, we have to see if we have to add the revision number there or not.
Yeah, basically the point is to start using revisions everywhere.
I wouldn't say everywhere. It's just starting in the etcd repository right now because they want to match the etcd version with the version that we are cutting for the image.
Okay.
So that's why they're trying to link, so we don't have to go look into the container image to see what version of etcd is there to avoid that problem.
Yeah, understood.
Okay, so if you have to change, we'll just add revision numbers only for the etcd image in the future. But for this release, we are okay. So
just for clarity on some of the earlier points, not necessarily this particular one, the scale tests that are currently being run, it's using the Google's containerized optimized image, which is 1703-ish based. Is that correct, Docker 1703?
There are a few, yes, but there are a few jobs where we use multiple images. And like there are 4 nodes, each node is a different version of Docker. We threw 1806 in that. And
no, I'm aware of that. I'm testing that separately. I'm just concerned about the signal we're getting back from scale for this particular release cycle. I think next cycle, I'll try to push on scale to get automation in place for like other CRIs.
Other CRIs plus multiple Docker versions, yes.
Yes.
Okay, quick question. So these are all these different image building steps as processes like documented either in the playbook or in some issue or somewhere else?
We have to do that, Ash. We haven't done that yet.
Okay.
There was a long snippet yesterday that was shared across multiple channels. That's the closest that we have. But right now, there's only a handful of people doing that work. But then once 112 is out, then more people will be doing this. So yes, we have to document that, what we need exactly.
Okay.
From that.
Okay, so are we going to use the issue number 631 to track that, or if not, I can just open one and.
Yeah, please open another one, Ash, so we don't forget.
Okay, sounds good. And I'll assign it to you, and you can triage it.
Yeah, thank you.
And cross-ref the 631 also when you open that, just so that the two get mentioned with each other. And if we create documentation today and we actually improve the process over in the 631, they'll be out of sync.
Right. Yeah.
So then I guess let's talk about that. The issue in test infra 631 is around the RPM and Debs building. So I'm kind of worried by not knowing where the spec files are and what's in them and how the variables are populated to understand why this issue popped up yesterday.
This popped up because we never cut Debs and RPMs for RC1s.
We definitely didn't. Okay.
Yeah. So the string, was the scripts didn't like the string, or the RPM spec didn't like the string. Sorry, go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, this has been a problem forever, and it's partially a problem because of the bifurcation between the release repository and the scripts that are set up for that, as well as how you get how it's built in the automation for everything else, right?
Yeah, I remember Chuck was also struggling with that when we were doing the CRI tools or something like that, or the CNI version.
Yes. So in general, like ideally for a long time, Jeff and I and some old people who have been around forever have wanted to get rid of the release repository. And the only one problem we had was the only detractor, and the only reason we could never do it was because Bazel did not support some cross-arch build details. And that was the only detractor that we had.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think going forwards, I don't think that prevents us from doing things. We could still have a single make artifact for RPMs and debs in the mainline repository, because we could just put the specs and the debs in there. We already have the generation through Bazel for the specs and the debs that are built as part of the mainline stuff. So that way we have one single source of truth, which would be the KK repo.
Yeah, that would be a notable improvement. Anytime you have parallel paths for build and release, and you're sort of doing one most of the time, and then at the end release from a different process, and then individuals doing dev test also on a separate path than release, that just always ends up causing grief.
Right, and we also have to figure out where the APT and the RPM repositories are, and how we can move them over to the CNCF side too.
And make sure that they're named appropriately, and not just that it's Debian or Ubuntu versus Xenial or something like that, not so overly specific that we're constantly causing ourselves grief there as well on maintenance.
Right. The only good thing I can say about this process was, Mehdi and was it XD or JP Bets, one of those. So the Deb and RPM don't take too long to run, to create the stuff or push the stuff. So that's that's the good part about it. Other than that, it's it's a problem.
Okay, well, it slightly worries me that we don't have official path test coverage exactly, that we're kind of going along on the alternate path, but this is also something that's been around, like Tim says, for forever. And we do have a few more people coming and being interested in helping evolve this in a better direction. So hopefully it does get better.
The other good news is a few of us were able to test at least the debs. I haven't had anyone test the RPM yet. So, and we actually put out a script in a gist to show the steps on how to do this. So anybody who has a fresh machine can go try it out.
Okay.
I did a hijack, but I didn't do full RPM builds, and the hijack worked fine because I'm an old hatter, so
yeah, I don't know those tricks.
All right. Anything anybody wants to bring up there in terms of critical pending items? This is looking like a pretty nice short list at this point.
Yes. I think Klaus's PR passed tests just now, and I'm yelling at apps and testing to go take a look.
Awesome. All right. So pending looks good to me, and approval and review, at least it passes CI. Okay.
I also triaged a less urgent issue into this release because there was a pending cherry pick messiness, and it seemed pretty straightforward. So I did that just now. That was gosh, which one was that? Mm, 68380. There we are. Yep, remove feature tag from scheduler preemption E2E tests.
Okay. So that's showing priority important soon, not critical urgent.
I changed that
Oh, you changed it. Okay, sorry. Yep.
just so it would merge because.
Web browser versus GitHub, not updating. All right.
Yeah, I talked to Dims about it, I believe, if I have the context right. And yeah, so it's triggering jobs right now. We'll see what happens. I'll keep a watch on it.
Good.
The intent seemed to be to merge it, right? I added it to the milestone and we talked about it, and then people added priority important soon. I'm like, well, that's not going to work. So,
And given the context, I mean, that should be safe
and helpful as well.
Yeah.
So,
don't like changing test stuff at the end, but okay. So looking at issues and PRs, anything that you want to mention today, Gwen? I feel like we're stable for the most part.
we have a remainder of 2 open issues, and I believe 12 open pull requests. I will watch those throughout the day and prod people.
Okay. Glancing through the list today, really, it seemed like the only thing new that had come in was Klaus's PR, and then the issue that I'd opened yesterday that triggered that PR, and also the issue that I should open on the GKE stuff. But basically, it's looking like, aside from that daemon set upgrade issue, we've not got any blocking issues, and PRs are looking quiet as well. So I feel like we're almost there. Fingers crossed. Okay, any docs updates? Do we have anybody docs on the line? I don't think so.
I don't know how to answer this question, but the cloud provider folks, there's no forcing function that people can use for some of this stuff, but the cloud provider docs are still a TBD and have been a TBD for multiple releases. It's a source of frustration. So I don't know if someone wants to poke them from multiple angles, not just including the docs folks and myself, but we ideally would like to have some of those in place.
Yeah, I think that this is a totally reasonable place to bring that up, and I will chat with a few people. It's probably late for much to happen this release unless they're sitting on something magically, but probably a big thing to note for Aish on a to-do list for as the next cycle comes up, to have this be something that we really push on.
It's always a problem with carrot and stick. We don't really have a stick.
Mm-hmm.
Tim, sorry. Go ahead.
Tim, if you could put that in the retro or someplace, that'll be great.
Sure. Public shaming, I guess, is a potential stick.
Yeah.
So Tim, do we want to just deal with in-tree cloud providers in this talk, or were you expecting? I don't know.
I was expecting that out of tree cloud providers would be mature now, because it's been touted for several releases in documentation that outlined all the details. So that way, when folks want to set it up, the instructions are there, as well as the canonical location of where to go. What happens now today is it's a hodgepodgery of information, and they go hunting, and lots of questions and issues get filed.
Yep.
I've pushed this cycle on them to get a line in the sand. Like, when are you gonna stop accepting even just maintenance? Like, when is full deprecation? When do you see that trending? And they're thinking kind of first or second quarter of next year, next calendar year, so 2019. But they got to draw that line and then back up what needs done. Have a full transition plan, including cleaning up the documentation on the one forward path and having a good set of docs. So I'll mention that again to them as well, that this needs. It needs to be clear what the trajectory is, both for contributors and the consumers of it as well.
Right. Given the complexity, the last one is going to be the GCE one, but I'm pushing for example, the AWS folks to do their stuff as an external cloud provider, and just vendor KK repository straight, just like we are doing in the OpenStack side. So I'm hoping that that plan goes forward, at least on the AWS side. So what will be left would be the GCE one.
While we are on docs, there was a question that Luke has asked in one of the issues. I pasted a link to that. This is on the PR 2.2112, the Kubernetes PR.
Oh, that was Lubomir's question, actually.
Oh, okay.
So you
Sorry,
put a hold on pull request 68789. Just a second, I'll drop the.
I saw it.
Okay.
So the question here, we have this was discussed earlier in this meeting. The problem is that kubeadm needs to sync with the SIG docs generation of reference docs. Because last time, in the last cycle, they generated some documentation with outdated versions. And this is not a big issue. We can solve it offline. But yeah, it's part of the problem with syncing the build, the kubeadm versioning, and the generation of the reference docs. I wanted to bring something else here as a question. So the discussion in the testing for the SIG testing channel. So how has the project historically dealt with the situation where you have a possible critical bug fix, but the only way to test it is via periodic jobs? Is there a mechanic to trigger periodic jobs on demand, or is there perhaps a way to move them to pre-submit jobs? And basically, what is the history?
Lubomir, if we ping the on-call person, they can trigger a periodic job for us, as long as the stuff has merged.
Yeah, that's the question. Like if we have something right now where we're not sure about, like we kind of had to do this for the scalability issue with Core DNS. Do we merge something for an experiment and then unmerge it? Or the complexity of getting that level of official path CI on a very short-lived branch, like there's a human scalability factor there that's an issue, but somehow we need something like that enabled, I suspect.
Okay, so I guess somebody should ping the testing for a person on call about this.
Yeah, it's something that I've got on my mind, just thinking about improving the release engineering process as we move forward. There's this really interesting essay that somebody from Etsy had posted about their Princess environment, and I think it's a really important part of release engineering to have this parallel track that you can do official normal stuff on, but not have to have merged to master. So a relatively common pattern in large complex systems to do that in your release engineering and DevOps, and it's something on my mind to try to figure out how we could do that better here. Well, we're at the end of our half hour. I think we hit basically everything on the agenda. We didn't get a mention on release notes. I'm not sure, especially I know the cluster lifecycle folks have thoughts there. The team is trying to adapt and improve and simplify. It's been painful.
We can maybe do a retro on it, and
okay.
I have thoughts for how to simplify the duplication. So.
Okay. And then communications. PR people are wanting to talk to me and release team people, and that'll happen next week. So that stuff will happen. I think that's basically it. I do see Caitlin. Anything you want to mention?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. All right, then we're at the end of our half hour, slightly over. Apologize for that. I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting, and we can follow up with anything else on Slack today, and we'll meet again tomorrow. Thank you all for your help.
Thank you.